Welcome to part 2 as the Wuhan monster grows. We'll start with a disclaimer first of all. Fair Use Act. Nothing you see here is real. It's all an illusion like Orson Welles. With that, we know better. We're just going to jump right into it because there's some stuff I didn't get to last video that I promised you I would. So we're going to address it. Here we go.
The Empire State, now with the most known cases in the country.
My guess is there are thousands and thousands of cases walking around the state of New York. There could be tens of thousands of people.
Tonight, at least 8 states have closed schools statewide, along with some of the biggest cities in the country, including Los Angeles. Across America, almost 22,000 schools shuttered, forcing 15 million kids to stay home.
And Tom Yamas joins me now from here in New York. Tom, some extraordinary words from the president here. The first time national emergency. What changes can we expect in critical areas like testing?
You know, what the president said is that they're going to have the full force of the federal government, and essentially they're going to have that $50 billion that they're going to give to the states, and then they're going to free up doctors to test patients remotely, known as telemedicine. A lot of doctors say this could help them treat patients. It'll also keep people out of ERs and out of the doctor's offices where the virus can spread. And then the big issue is the issue of tests, and they said they're going to create this website where people can basically check their symptoms, that they can go to a drive-through, and typically the way it works, a healthcare professional will take an oral swab. You don't have to get out of your car, and then within a few days you'll know if you have the test results, whether you have the coronavirus or if you don't. And Diane, the goal here is twofold. One, to make sure people aren't spreading the virus by walking outside, by leaving their cars or their homes, and two, meeting the rising demand for those tests.
But Tom, this is a very different description of the way the testing process is working right now. So any word on when we can expect to see this drive-through testing in place, and how can this help contain the spread?
You know, Diane, that's the big question tonight, right? They have to create this website, which hasn't been created yet. It's not out there just yet. And then people, once they go to that website, they'll be able to check their symptoms through a series of questions. But yes, there are still a lot of unknowns. But what the president's goal was basically to get out there, to get in front of the cameras and reassure the nation that after weeks of warnings and after weeks of downplaying this crisis, the federal government and his administration really finally is going to take this thing very seriously. And also, they're bringing in the private sector, including companies like Google, like Walmart, like Target, to help out with the testing process.
All right, hopefully it all works. Tom Yamas from New York. Thanks, Tom. Now, the ways in which this virus outbreak has affected daily life just keep piling up, with Americans hoping for the best but preparing for the worst. In many parts of the country, grocery store lines have been out the door and around the block, like these early morning shoppers in New York City, where supplies have been depleted all week. And many of the venues where Americans go to escape the stresses of daily life have also been shut down, like this strangely vacant shot of Disney World in Florida. Our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, has the latest from Los Angeles.
Tonight, more signs of the world's biggest economy creaking to a halt. Disney today canceling the production of all live-action films in the pipeline. Hours later, Netflix, then Warner Brothers following suit, halting productions in the U.S. and Canada. Universal and Disney also shutting their theme parks. The U.S. entertainment industry is valued at an estimated $700 billion a year, and the shutdowns are engulfing sports, too. NASCAR and Golf's Masters announced postponements today, joining nearly every major league sport, the NHL, Major League Baseball, and soccer, and others calling a timeout, including the NBA. The Utah Jazz's Rudy Gobert, who tested positive after mockingly touching reporters' microphones at a news conference, apologized, but his team is now testing dozens of people. The Boston Marathon pushing the race to September, and the ripples reaching down into local economies too. In hard-hit Washington state, overall business is down 10%. The state hammered with over 30 coronavirus deaths. Hotel spending down more than 50%. Restaurants down 30%. The ever-present threat of quarantine triggering panic buying. Now, these shelves are bare. Typically, they're restocked every night. But economists tell us with the global supply chain screeching to a halt, shelves like this might just stay bare.
Farmers aren't going to be able to get their work done. Truckers aren't going to be able to ship the food from the farm to the store shelves. Store shelves aren't going to get stocked. it's going to be difficult to just manage through every day.
Nick Vyas is an expert on the global supply chain. Would you say that this is the biggest economic interruption that we have seen in our lifetimes?
I think that when the dust settles, we will look back and this will probably be one of the major catastrophic event.
But economists seem to agree there will be a recovery, a distant hope brought nearer by the latest Instagram update from Hollywood's most relatable man, Tom Hanks, still in isolation after contracting the virus in Australia. Hanks encouraging fans to take the advice of experts and take care of themselves, and in a wink to his hit movie, A League of Their Own, reminding folks there's no crying in baseball.
Diane, it is certainly disturbing to hear these economists talk about the economy this way, describing it as a full circle of destruction, talking about maybe once in a lifetime economic devastation. It might not come to that. It likely won't come to that. But if the supply chain and people's daily needs are not being met, there are a number of measures that state and federal government officials can take. Right now, we're already seeing governors deploy the National Guard in New York. We've seen an executive order from the governor of California in which he basically says he can commandeer private property. I'm told to expect more executive orders of that nature, granting more sweeping powers to the California governor. And federal officials tell me that it's in their pandemic plan to actually deploy the military, if necessary, to ensure that infrastructure, logistics, and people's daily needs are able to be met uninterrupted. Diane?
And tonight, Congress appears to have a deal on a relief plan. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi spent the past 24 hours in intense negotiations with the Treasury Secretary. ABC's Mary Bruce is on Capitol Hill. Mary, we're hearing there's a deal. What does it look like?
Diane, the Speaker has just announced that they have reached an agreement. This is a bill that's intended to provide immediate relief to Americans who are suffering from coronavirus. It would include free coronavirus testing, also enhanced paid family and sick leave, and it would boost unemployment insurance. It would also include measures to increase food security across the country, but it does not include several measures that the president has been demanding, like a payroll tax cut. Now, both Speaker Pelosi and the Treasury Secretary agree that there could be additional bills and measures in the coming weeks. And Diane, they have spent the last 24 hours in intense negotiations, the two of them speaking more than a dozen times just today to try and hammer all of this out. The House is going to be acting on this tonight, and then the Republican-controlled Senate will be following suit on Monday.
Well,
Diane?
good to hear about action out of Washington. Mary Bruce from the Capitol, we appreciate it. Thanks. And one of the lawmakers who will be considering that proposal is Texas Senator Ted Cruz. But he is under self-quarantine right now and joins us now by phone. Senator, thanks for talking to us.
Diane, it's good to be with you. Thank you for having me.
So I understand that you had to extend your quarantine after you learned of a second interaction. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling terrific. I have no symptoms. I'm in good health, but I'm trying at the same time to be cautious and prudent. And the quarantine came about from two separate interactions. 2 weeks ago at the CPAC gathering, I interacted, I visited with and shook hands with a person who subsequently tested positive for coronavirus. I was informed of that 9 days later. When I found out about that, I spoke with the CDC, I spoke with the HHS, I spoke with the health department in both the city of Houston and Harris County where I reside, and I spoke with my own doctor. Based on their advice, they concluded that I did not meet the CDC criteria for self-quarantine because the encounter had been brief and it had been 9 days without symptoms. Nevertheless, I decided in an abundance of caution to impose my own self-quarantine, and so I spent the remainder of the 14-day period in my home away from other people. That self-quarantine ended yesterday, so I was happily looking forward to tonight taking my family out to dinner and ending the quarantine. And then unfortunately I found out last night that a second person I had encountered, a Spanish government official who had come to meet me in my office in D.C., had tested positive for coronavirus last night. And so as a result of that, I decided to extend the self-quarantine for 14 days from that interaction. That will expire on March 17th. So I am once again sitting at my home but working from home and engaging in the government government response to this growing public health crisis.
And have you been tested yet, Senator?
You know, I have not, and the reason is each of the physicians that I've consulted with advised me that since I have no symptoms, since I'm not sick, they said testing was medically ineffective, that you have to have a sufficient viral load for the test to work, and so the advice of the physicians was not to get tested, but simply monitor, and if I encountered any symptoms and got sick, then they said testing made sense. Now that being said, I think we need to do much more to make tests available widely and publicly. And I think we've made major steps in the last 48 hours in that regard. In particular, seeing private labs stepping forward to fill some of the capacity. But I'm urging the administration.
That's 1,200 for past 24 hours.
Watch this, guys. I'll be right with you. I've got a pest invasion.
Especially when you have
It's very important in epidemic response to understand your problem, because without understanding your problem, it's very difficult to fix it. So we've seen this. China's numbers went up very quickly because they started to look for cases. The same happened in Korea, when Korea started to do active surveillance, and then you can turn a corner. So I think we need to look at these data in terms of, yes, natural epidemiology, but also I think because the Iranian system is switching on, we're seeing a much more all-of-government approach, as the DG called for yesterday. There's a national action plan now. There's 100,000 workers committed to this plan, and we are going to see any country in the face of an epidemic, when it looks for cases, will find them. And if we call that a bad thing, it is. It's a sad thing for the people who have the disease, but it's much better that we understand the extent of the problem. So we commend the move towards more aggressive, targeted surveillance, and we hope that that will lead to the kind of control measures that can help push this virus back.
Thank you very much. One question here, then we will move online. One question, please.
I'll text you.
Upon my doctor's recommendation, I will remain in self-isolation for 14 days. I want to be clear, I have no symptoms.
And I thought I would leave us with that when we close out part 2, because we're going to do some more tonight, guys. You notice all these people that you just heard, I'm not testing. Oh, it doesn't work if you're not full blown and all this. Well, I hate to crush everybody, but not you guys, because you know, we know. Team 99, we know. We're ahead of the curve. It's not valid over 50%, even up 75% of the time. And then by the time it is, you've already been a spreader. That's the problem with this monster. But these guys not testing, it's very suspicious. Very, very, very suspicious. As a matter of fact, it's so suspicious. I want to show you what a couple people have to say about this. Let's watch this for just a minute.
From around the world, Mike, how you doing tonight?
Pastor Paul Pedro, how you doing this evening?
Oh, I'm doing good. Let's see if we can get this up a little higher on the volume.
All right.
Doing good, Mike. Hang on one second. I'm going to set it here so the guys at the radio can hear you.
That's
good.
how I'm going to look when I go live, guys.
I think we got you there. All
it's
right,
going to
Mike,
be all.
great to have you tonight. It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah, it sure has. It most certainly has. Look at us, America. We have entered into it, haven't we?
We really have, Mike. Again, stock market lost 2,350 some points again today. The worst day since Black Monday of October of '87. Major League Baseball closed. National Hockey League closed. The NBA season closed. March Madness, well, they thought they took the madness out of March, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like Madness is everywhere. We're out of toilet paper in West Lafayette, out of toilet paper in San Diego, they're out of toilet paper in Toronto. Mike, what's going on?
Well, it's the, this fear element, as we talked about this past fall, and to watch the reactions of people in this episode, this coronavirus episode, and they are really going to the extreme, aren't they?
They really are. The reaction is way over the top, Mike. And I mean, in comparison, I went through the numbers. I mean, we've got 1,600 cases in America. 31 people have died. Now, I think around 36,000 people have died from the flu this year already. But why in the world is it all so over the top? It's as if it's being orchestrated. I'm not saying the coronavirus isn't real, Mike, but we got a physician in the Congress today saying that between 70 and 150 million Americans could get the coronavirus. Is that possible?
Yeah, actually, that is. That's a very conservative number, to be honest with you. Now, but this coronavirus itself, yes, they're taking a pretty good look at this virus, and they won't have a vaccine until a year from now, so they say, right? So I think when they came out with a comment that scared folks, and then, of course, that the death toll in China, China had attention due to the protests, and then all of a sudden this coronavirus hit, and China was in disarray. Well, they began to announce a death rate in China, which scared people. And at first, everybody over here was okay with it because nobody had died from it. As the numbers are increasing, if you notice, every single day they put an emphasis on how the numbers are doubling. But if you listen carefully at what they're doing, every day they come on, they're making this somewhat of an emergency type of situation, which is why knowing the facts about the virus is imperative. But the reaction of the people has this runaway effect. And right now, more than ever, these folks are listening to each other, not so much the experts, because of conflicting reports and information that's not very consistent, which, that creates one of those perfect environments for fear. And then, of course, the imagination of an individual runs away. You got to remember, we're the generation who watched zombie movies, and all these different movies are implanted in our minds, and our imagination runs away because we've been super blessed and we've had somewhat of a controlled environment. So you put an unknown variable among people, and they begin to panic in the news. The news is, it seems that they're putting an emphasis on how quick this thing is spreading. But the truth is, the ratio between those who get the virus and those who are dying right now is a bit, it's normal, believe it or not.
Well, that's a good point, Mike. Just to look at this number right now, for instance, Italy is saying they have 12,462 cases, and Italy says they have 827 deaths. Now, that's about 7%, and that's pretty high compared to China, which only says 3,056 people died out of 80,000. I don't believe those numbers, though. We can't believe the China numbers, can we?
No.
So, Mike, whenever you say, yeah, it's very possible that between 70 and 150 million Americans could actually get that virus, that must mean China never told us the truth. Let's just be honest. They must have been in the millions of people who got sick, and maybe close to 1 million that died. Would you say that's possible?
Oh, yeah, because if you look at the accountability and how they're doing this, look at the states, for example. I'm going to share something with you right now that is probably true. I'm going to just put something out there. But in America, those who are tested with the virus, now remember, what was it, about 5 or 6 days ago, they had the test kits for this virus. Right? They announced that. If you watch the reaction and the rhetoric that they're putting out, officials are putting out, you're going to hear massive inconsistencies. Of course, after this show, they'll probably straighten them up, but they said that they finally had the test kits for the coronavirus that went out to all states. They said this on national television. They said this to the public. How are they counting numbers? And how do they have proper accountability in all states, of those in all states who could have had the coronavirus, if they didn't have or didn't facilitate the tools and the instruments and had the data to actually check for it? So you can't check for a virus, right, if you don't have the markers for it, because you won't be able to detect it. So that means of those places that had the test kits, they were testing individuals, and if they showed up positive, if the person reported to the hospital, if they showed up positive, well, then they had the coronavirus, and thus we got the numbers. But if everybody...
And I'm going to ask you to please hold on for part 3 tonight, because part 2 I'm putting out right now, guys, so you can get it and get started on it. There's a lot to take in. This thing's moving pretty fast, and WUHAN Accord. Had to say hi. Hi. As you notice, his spots are still up, still here. And who gave whatever I'm getting? That's the guilty one. And one quick moment of, first it was TP. This is Max. So if you like them, you better get some, guys. Because I was told that they're going fast. With that, healthcare sucks. Whoa, I did pretty good. Love you all. We got it covered. You got it covered. Stay calm as you can. Breathe. Look over at your supplies. You got some stuff over there. You're doing okay. Look over here. You got something to drink. I didn't say what, but you guys know. Whatever it takes. And by no means am I saying get all drunk and crazy and stuff, because that's not the answer. The answer is you got to have your head on your shoulders to make these decisions, because even though I use the Fair Use Act, you know, and I tell you whatever I tell you because it's all an illusion, doesn't mean it's not the truth. So, but you have to make decisions. I'll leave you with this. We all talked about pulling our kids and stuff, and I've talked about this in another video. Now it's all over. Those kids aren't going back to school for a while. I hate to break it to you, anybody that thinks they're going to throw their kids back into school real soon. If I'm wrong, you can throw something at me through the phone. But guess what? How many times have I been wrong? Go back and watch my videos from the start of the outbreak and tell me how many times I've been wrong. I wish I was wrong and it was all gone and all better and the perfect world. But we talked about that too, because wishing is like, you know, that thing where you put things in your hand and one goes this way, one goes that way. Well, unfortunately, unless you got a genie in a bottle. I think that was a song, Genie in the Bottle, yeah. Well, I'm swinging it tonight. Yeah. But prayer will get us through this. So, we'll be back to watch some more of Pastor Paul and Mike around the world, Council of Time. Again, very, very well-connected, intelligent man. Pastor Paul, a Bible slinger, and believe me, when I say truth slingers like us, he is a Bible slinger, and he's got his Bible on a quick draw. So, and then we're going to tune into some BP. BP's all over it. As a matter of fact, BP just did a video I haven't even fully watched yet. I guess we're having some movement out in the ocean on the buoys. Frequency to earthquake? I don't know. That's all we need. A Cascadia event in the middle of all this? Wow. And we all know that HARP, H-A-P, H-A-R-P, God, I can't even spell tonight. So, like, duh. At least I make fun of myself. You guys are welcome to make fun of me all the time. See, because I'm good. I like it when you make fun of me. I get this energy. It says, yeah, I can feel it. I can feel it. I can feel it, brother. Because I am your brother. As they say, maybe from a different mother, but I'm still your brother. That's right. So the thing is for us all to work together, pray, help out each other. We'll get through this thing, and we'll be back. I don't know where that "will be back" keeps coming. Maybe it's like, we'll be back. I am the Terminator. I will terminate you, WUHAN. 19. I will crush you, smash you, turn you inside out. All right, I'm gone. Healthcare sucks!